I have been living in Finland now for 5.5 years, just about. And I think my absolute least favorite thing about this country is its alcohol culture. And it doesn't appear that the government is really doing much to help alcoholics. If anything, they're making it easier for people to purchase alcohol, making it cheaper. Um, but everything else is nanny stated, like vaping and marijuana, vaping being used as a smoking cessation device and marijuana being used as, well, you got a list of things here that it helps. Not cures, I'm not one of those people, but a list of things that marijuana absolutely helps. But no, we'll just keep making alcohol easier and easier. That is alcohol culture. That is an alcohol culture. That is a toxic alcohol culture. And I have seen the toxicity of it firsthand in so many ways, both within my family and outside of it. Especially when I lived in Western Finland, there were far, far too many people who just thought that I've been drinking for so long and it doesn't affect me. I can drive. Um, I met quite a few people who were like this. And it's just like the people who say that they can drive while they're stoned, or even like, oh, I drive better while I'm stoned. Well, yeah, you can drive while you can drive while you've had marijuana, or you can drive while you've had alcohol or whatever substance in you, but you need all of your brain to drive, and alcohol inhibits part of your brain no matter how much tolerance you think you have. There's no such thing as a safe amount of alcohol to have before you get behind the wheel, especially when I'd see people get in the car drunk with their kids. You know, I got in a very huge, huge heated argument with somebody who I witnessed getting in a car with their kids out in Western Finland, and it wasn't pretty. I'll just put it to you that way. You go to the grocery store, you smell people just reeking of booze, and you go out to the parking lot and you see them get right in their car. Sometimes they got their dog in the car, they got their kids, they got somebody is with them. They're putting other people in danger. They're a danger just by virtue of being on the road, but having people inside the car with them. So I get the feeling that a lot of native Finns here are comfortable being in a car with somebody who has been drinking because they think that it's just, we're inured to it. And then they end up wrapped around a telephone pole a few years later, and they're just asking, why? What could we have done to prevent this? What could we have done? Oh my God. It is true that there is not a lot that another person can do to stop a person from drinking. I've been told by so many people, the few people that I have confided in about this, my therapist, members of my family who had to deal with alcoholics like my dad, my grandparents. Three of my four grandparents died before I was even 1 year old. All of them alcohol related. All of them. It is, and the one grandparent that I do have that's still alive was a raging alcoholic, and somehow by the grace of God is still alive, and somehow by the grace of whatever, I am not an alcoholic myself. The gene just, I consider myself very, very lucky. Um, you can't just talk someone out of it, but there are some times where I truly wonder, somebody who's struggling with alcoholism, maybe they drink because they're really sad, they're really lonely, of course, duh. They're drinking to numb the pain, they don't have anybody to confide in, and maybe if they did have somebody in their life who was like, hey, you okay? Want to talk? Completely without judgment, without treating them as if they chose to become alcoholics, they could use that sort of force in their lives. But if you grow up here, I know the youth is drinking less, but it's the older people who are still drinking a lot and still causing all the problems. if you grow up over time in Finland in a culture like this where people are very reserved, they don't get involved in other people's lives, even if it's a dire situation, you just begin to become used to that, knowing that your only consolation is the bottle. It's not going to be another human being. It's not going to be the warmth of another human being. And if it is with the warmth of another human being, they're probably going to be drinking too. You know, alcohol is just it's the cause of the majority of domestic violence incidents in this country. Alcohol is the cause of the majority of violent crimes in general in this country. You will never see two people who have just had a joint out on the street fighting each other. You will absolutely see two people who have just gotten sauced in a bar duking it out on the street, or fighting somebody else, or fighting somebody at a sporting event, or trying to, being very loud and boisterous. I've seen it when I lived in Helsinki. It was just like my eyes, even as an American, like were just fully open to the amount of public drunkenness that exists, that is tolerated and accepted, until it gets to a certain point. And by that point, the police have to intervene. There's just such a nonchalant attitude towards a problem that causes so much stress and strife, not only on a personal level, but on a societal level. It's the cause of so much disease. It's the cause of so many incidences of liver cancer. So many preventable forms of, or so many preventable methods of, or causes of death. Jesus. And it's just part of the culture. This is just what happens. And it's like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to be. I don't care if the life expectancy is 80, 81 years old. Those people who are at that age, not all of them are with their full faculties, because some of their brains have been, turned to mush by some form of encephalopathy because they drank so much, or some aspect of their lives, their physical body is not right because they drank for most of their lives, or they had a stroke thanks to alcohol. And, it's like, what is the quality of those lives? Because people will say, well, Finland, Finland's a really healthy country. The 81 years old, look at that life expectancy, or whatever it is now. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't take into account, they're alive, but are they living? Are they allowed to live because of the damage that they did to themselves through smoking, through alcoholism, through whatever? I have to tell you, my American friends who look at Finland as this paradise, this utopia, from a social point of view, from a governmental point of view, it is not the case. It is not the case, especially if you are an outgoing American or an outgoing person. If you move to this country, you are in for some instant depression. I'll just put it to you that way. I do really love this country, but as I spend more time here, as I get older, as my clock ticks away, I find it a lot harder to live among this sort of attitude that people have. Again, there is a part of my brain that just absolutely will not allow it to be okay for somebody to see somebody who's suffering within your own family, your friends, someone who's suffering from alcoholism, and to not do anything about it. And you don't have to do some gigantic gesture. You don't have to drag them kicking and screaming out of their car or their house to AA. Although if you see them going for their car and they've had a drink, it would be nice if you took the damn keys out of their hand. But, just as a thought. It could be as simple as talking to them, striking up regular conversation with them. But that is a thing that just... And when it comes to making friends, more often than not, people want to meet up at a fucking bar. More often than not, you'll get lucky sometimes and they'll say, let's meet at the cafe, but eventually you'll end up at the bar. You don't necessarily have to drink, but if you don't like that sort of scene because you know how drunk people act and you don't like it when people are drunk, you don't like the smell, you don't like their lack of control, yeah, it's also kind of a barrier when it comes to a lot of friendships too, when you're an expat and you move to this culture and you see just how little people seem to give a toss about how much damage this substance really does. And then you learn that people have such a weird attitude towards marijuana. It's like, how can you be pro-alcohol and anti-marijuana? Like, what are you smoking? But that's this government. That is a lot of the people here. They think that pot is this evil schizophrenia causing drug that is, never mind the fact that, it is such a help for so many people in so much pain, and it's so much healthier for you to numb your pain. And it doesn't even numb the pain. It helps you deal with it. It doesn't take away your pain. Alcohol just numbs it. It numbs your brain. It depresses your central nervous system. It just numbs you. That's all. Among a billion other things that it's doing to your brain and to your body and its processes. Marijuana is just there to create a sense of euphoria that helps you not think so much about the pain. And this is just one example I'm talking about. This is just one example. If you're pro-alcohol and you're anti-marijuana, you're just full of shit. You are just so totally full of shit. And I don't want to have anything to do with you, because you're also being intellectually dishonest, because you got to know somewhere deep in that brain of yours that there's just no comparing the two, but you continue to say alcohol is okay, maybe out of your own self-interest so you can continue to drink, or your family member can continue to drink. I don't know, but it's all the same. It's bullshit. Anyway, that could be a topic for a completely different video. Just the way that people talk themselves into thinking that marijuana is on the same level of evil as alcohol, even if they also dislike alcohol. Like, again, where is your brain? I don't personally think, based on the lives I've seen personally in my own life, I've been in some relationships that were marred by alcohol abuse. I have seen it turn people I love into monsters. I have seen it make them say things they wouldn't otherwise say, and then they call it truth, and then the next day they come to their senses and are like, what? Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. And then they just to get drunk all over again. And it's like the line between who are you, like the line between truth and what you think is the truth because you're drunk becomes completely blurred, and it's so confusing, and it's so depressing, disheartening, disconcerting, all those things, to see somebody that you love, that you know is impaired, say a lot of shit and insist that this is who they are and what they really mean. And then it's just like with my dad, growing up with my dad, he'd get drunk, he'd do something violent, he'd do something stupid, he'd say something out of turn, he would do something criminal, quite frankly. And then the next day, it's like there's all this clarity. There's all this clarity. And you feel like maybe this is the part where it begins to turn around. Maybe this is where it turns around. And no, it doesn't. There needs to be more help for people who are alcoholics. And this government isn't providing it. No one is providing it. Public health in general in Finland is becoming underfunded. Just so Orpo and the Prime Minister and all of his rich buddies can help people in the private industry profit. And I guess that includes private rehabilitation clinics. Public rehab is they're so few and far between. In a country like this, there should be a rehab center in every single city. That may be a bit of an overstatement, but there should be a lot more of them. It's almost as if people just don't have the choice, because they can't afford it, or because it's too far away from them, and they've got all these other obligations that they just don't have the time to get clean. It's easier for them to drink their sorrows of their job away at home. And all the while, they still don't have that person that they can talk to about the damage they know they're doing to themselves and the damage that they've sort of just resigned themselves to. And that's what I'm seeing right now in my life, and it's so depressing to watch. And it's so... I'm an adult, I'm a grown-up, I'm a big boy, and I know I can leave whenever I want, but it's not always that simple. It's really not all that simple. If it were that simple, I wouldn't be making this video, and I'd have been out of here 2 or 3 years ago. Absolutely, without a question. It's such a back and forth. You don't know if this person who's sitting next to you, if this person who's having sex with you, well, I mean, those are the days, or this person who's comforting you in your time of need, you don't know if it's them or the alcohol until you get close enough to smell it. Until you get close enough to smell it and you know, yeah, God damn it. That really cool moment that we just had, that really awesome conversation, it was just alcohol. Most of it was just alcohol. And then you get to the point where, you know, let's say it's a loved one of yours, like your significant other, that they're drunk so often that you just don't feel comfortable at all being intimate with somebody who's drunk and you're sober. It's just like, no, I don't want to do that. And that is also very, it's defeating. Because it makes you think that if that person never gets better, then there goes your sex life completely. So, you know, just it colors your relationships. It absolutely it just puts a pall over all of your relationships. And when you're the sober one, you know, but I know that if there were more resources available for these people in my life, my friends, family, loved ones that I've known who have struggled with alcoholism, if they had more resources and if people gave more of a shit, things might be different. But no one seems to give a shit. They don't give a shit about the people who are drinking, and more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, that I don't know what, but just as importantly, they don't give a shit about the people who have to deal with that alcoholic in their lives. I know that nobody in my extended in-law family, they don't give a shit. They just don't care. And it's sad because this is their daughter, this is their sister, this is their niece, whatever, and it's like, you don't live with them every day. I do. I see them. I see what this is. You cannot just pass this off. You can't just say that this is just part of who they are. It's not. It's absolutely not. This is your loved one, and you are just glossing over the fact that they're an alcoholic. I see them 3 times more than you do. I don't care if you know them better because they're your family member. I see them in the here and now. And a lot of other people, I'm sure, feel exactly like this, who are in the situation like this, who are basically victims. Again, I know I can leave whenever I want, but it's not that easy. It will happen. It will happen, but it's not happening anytime soon. So the best you can do in a situation like this is just keep your distance, separate yourselves, and do your own things until it becomes more viable for a more permanent departure. At least that's where I am currently in my life, is that this alcoholism, this problem that I've lived with for my entire goddamn life, it seems, is still there. And I'm hearing the same excuses, the same reasons, the same tired reasons and excuses that I heard when my dad would get drunk. and beat the crap out of me, or, say something really mean just to turn from Hyde back into Jekyll or whatever the next day, and it's all swept under the rug because it seems here people do not want to do the hard mental work that it takes to help people with this who have this disease. And they don't have the resources within their society. They don't have the resources from their government because their government doesn't give a shit. They don't have the resources at work because their job only gives a shit as long as they're not drinking on the job. And even if they are, can they do the work? Okay, cool. We don't care. Their family doesn't give a shit. I know they care about her, but her disease? And it's really sad when one of those people had a wife who died from alcoholism. So they have been through this firsthand, and they hear that it's a problem with their daughter. And it's like, where are the alarm bells going off? It's everything else's fault. There's so many other easy scapegoats in this world. But as I've heard from my therapist and from this person and that person and this person and that person and so many people, it has to be that person's willingness to want to get better, first and foremost. And it's been proven to me that is not there. So my dad proved it probably around the time, I think I was like 9 or 10 when I accepted that every day this was gonna kind of be his routine, sitting at the computer with a bud, or 2, or 3, or 5, or 10. With my ex. Yeah, this is going to kind of be the routine, or one of them anyway, This is going to be kind of the routine, that is going to come home from work and get sauced and be really embarrassing and weird. It's just going to be the routine. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't, but because this culture is the way it is, so many people fall victim to it. And it is heartening to know that so many younger people are not falling victim to drinking as much. But how much of that is their choice and how much of that is just luck? For me, total luck. Total luck. 4 grandparents with alcohol problems. A father with alcohol problems. So many aunts and uncles and cousins and people all over my family tree is drenched in ethanol. And somehow I came out without the problem. It's been tough. It's been exceedingly difficult with each passing day to live with. It's become exceedingly difficult with each passing day to witness within society, whether it's violent crime, domestic violence, just all sorts of crime. Just I fucked up.